I have been procrastinating for 20 years to put this puzzle together. This is CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, based on that hit TV show from years ago. This puzzle was actually made in 2004, and it's been sitting in my closet for all these years, just waiting for us to play today. So let's go ahead and actually take off this wrapper. So you can see it really is unused all these years, and see what's going on here on the back. So basically we have a story with a 12-page booklet that we're going to put together. This is a mystery puzzle, so we don't know what the puzzle looks like. And then it comes with this ultraviolet flashlight that will help us reveal the solution, although I think that might just be in the instruction booklet. I was kind of hoping part of the puzzle pieces would have hidden clues, but I guess we'll see. So the case: socialite Vivian Elliott is having a bad day. When the neighbor finds her dead in her kitchen, your CSI team is called in to solve the crime. The clues are all there, but some are easier to find than others. Use your sleuthing skills and the UV light included to answer the questions. What happened to Vivian Elliott? Did her hubby or the handyman have it in for her? Or did a home invasion go awry? Let's go ahead, open it up, and see what's inside. All right, so there is no separate puzzle bag or anything. We just have all of these loose pieces and an instruction booklet. Looks like we have several pages of story. Oh, we've got some evidence. I guess this is where the ultraviolet image comes into play. Hopefully after 20 years this is still going to work. I guess we're going to find out here in a moment. Let's go ahead and start sorting the puzzle and read this story. As a rookie CSI, you accompany CSI Level 3 Catherine Willows to the upscale home of Tim and Vivian Elliott in Summerlin, Nevada. It's a lovely, spacious house, and a uniformed officer leads you back to the large kitchen. Captain Jim Brass, who arrived before you and has already gotten a part of the story, meets you there. It is early afternoon. Meet Vivian Elliott, Brass says. Affluent housewife stabbed once in the abdomen. Intruder, maybe. A home invasion gone awry? Catherine says, whatever the case, the late Mrs. Elliott put up a real fight. Looks like a war zone in here. Who found the body? A neighbor. Monica Campbell. They often had coffee together in the afternoon. I didn't see anybody in the house. Brass gestures with a pointing finger. Mrs. Campbell's at her home next door, pretty shaken up. Well, this is not their usual coffee clatch. How did our neighbor enter the crime scene? Back door. She came in, saw the body, and ran home to call 911. Just stayed in her own house and waited for the good guys to show up. That would be us. Anyone else at home? Nope. The husband, Tim, has a computer job at the Sphere. We've got an officer going to collect him now. Children? Couple is childless, Brass says. The neighbor says there's a handyman who lives in a room over the garage out back, but there's no sign of him anywhere. There's an APB out on him, one Frank Dayton. The neighbor gave you his name? That's right, Kath. Dayton's done some odd jobs for her, too. Guy's kind of a neighborhood staple. This is a nice home, in an upscale neighborhood, but they're not filthy rich. Couldn't likely afford full-time live-in help. Catherine sighs, hand on her hips. She throws a look your way, then flashes a businesslike smile at Brass. Well, Captain, let us get some processing done on the crime scene. Then we'll see where you're at with the husband. Glancing at his watch, Brass says, afternoon rush hour, could take some time to get him here, but I need to follow up in more detail with a Campbell woman. No rush. Judging by the condition of this kitchen, we're going to be here a while. Brass leaves, and you're left alone in the kitchen with Catherine and the corpse of Vivian Elliott. Catherine tilts her head to one side, offering you up half a smile as she says, Okay, take it from the top, rookie. Tell me what you see. But before you can reply, Brass barges back into the room with an uncharacteristically thrown expression. What is it? Catherine asks. Brass gestures behind him with a thumb. Patrolman stopped at a convenience store a few blocks from here. To grab a soda before driving to the Sphere to gather up Mr. Elliott? No law against it. But there are laws against murder? Patrolman went into the bathroom and stumbled onto our missing handyman, Frank Dayton. Turns out he's not all that handy. How so? The guy was washing blood off his hands, trying to stop a bleeding cut on his finger, a cut he couldn't explain. Arching an eyebrow, Catherine says, I presume the officer took Dayton into custody. Oh, yeah, they're on their way here. Just then, another officer pauses in the hallway right outside the kitchen with a man who's obviously been crying. The man is about 35, dressed in a charcoal suit with a white shirt, red tie, and freshly polished black dress shoes. The officer identifies his charge as Vivian Elliott's husband. You follow Catherine's lead and block the kitchen from entry, and at the same time take in the brief interview Brass conducts with the stunned husband. Mr. Elliott, Brass says, we're sorry for your loss, but we have to ask you some questions. Time is crucial in matters like this. The man nods, swallows, and bleats. I just can't believe it. Viv, she's the sweetest thing. Who would do such a evil thing? Had your wife had any disagreements with anyone lately? Would you say there was anyone with animosity towards her? Everybody loved Viv. I have to ask you, sir, where were you this afternoon? Since noon, say. Flushing with anger, his tone defensive, Elliott says, I had lunch here, right here, with Viv. I surprised her and brought her Chinese. It's her favorite. Then I was in a meeting all afternoon at the Sphere. There were a good 20 people there. I can give you their names. Ignoring Elliott's quiet indignation, Brass says, Thank you, sir. That will be helpful. You want those names now? I just find out this horrible thing, and you want me to sit down and... Later will be fine. For now, I need to ask you if you've seen any suspicious activity lately, in the neighborhood, in general, specifically someone watching the house, door-to-door solicitations, perhaps. Phone calls with a quick hang-up when someone answers, maybe? Elliott shakes his head to all of this. Getting a sign from one of the uniformed officers toward the front of the house, Brass says, That'll be all for now, Mr. Elliott. This officer will take you in the other room and stay with you for a short time. Then I'll speak to you again. What am I, under house arrest? Elliott says, outraged. Like hell, I want to see my wife. I have a right. Brass puts up a hand to stop him. I'm sorry, sir. This is a crime scene. I can't let you in that kitchen. I'm sure you don't want to compromise any evidence that would help us find the person who did this, as you say, horrible thing. Of course not. Just go with this officer, and we'll be with you again shortly. All three of you can hear the man cursing to himself as the patrolman accompanies him down the hall, out of sight. A moment later, you see why Brass gave Mr. Elliott the bum's rush. Another officer comes in with a man in his late 20s, wearing a sweat-soaked t-shirt, jeans, and well-worn work boots. He's got a heavy bandage around his hand and bloodstains on both his shirt and pants. Frank Dayton? The man's eyes were riveted on the body across the room. Numbly, he nods. Brass continues. The officer read you your rights? Yes. You want to tell me how you got all bloody and cut your hand? Dayton just shrugs. Brass's eyes are tight. You did this, didn't you, Frank? The handyman's head droops, but he says nothing. Turning to you two, Brass says, I love a good old-fashioned slam dunk now and then. Catherine smiles at him. Are you talking donuts or crime scenes? Jim, we're just getting started here. The rookie and I will call you when we know more about our unhappy housewife. Now assemble the puzzle and study the crime scene. Review the clues and figure out who done it, and most importantly, how. A good CSI must show the evidence to back his or her theory. We are about an hour and a half into this puzzle, from sorting it to getting this border put together. And as we take a look around, I think there is a hand right there. There were a lot of false fits as we put this border together, and that was a little irritating, as was a lot of this trial and error with these dark colored pieces that just kind of all blend together. I'm not looking forward to putting that together. We have what appears to be a kitchen sink up here, and I'm not really sure what this bright pink and green thing is. Maybe that was that box of rat poison we saw as we were sorting the pieces. But it looks like we've got a lot more puzzling to do to look for more clues. After one more hour of puzzling, we have not made it very far. This is not an easy puzzle to put together. I think a lot of the dark color really makes it a challenge. However, there was this sort of neon green square. Looks like I don't know what these things are, but we'll probably find out soon enough. Over on the side, we've got what appears to be some rat poison. And after another hour of puzzling, yes, we can confirm that is rat poison. I'm guessing these boxes are close-up images. Looks like we have the rat poison there, a drawer. Who knows what's going to be revealed inside that? Not sure what that is. This is kind of nothing as well. So not a whole lot more to see from this round, but let's see what happens in yet another hour. Look at that. We have a body. It appears to be Miss Vivian Elliott. There's a bloody rag next to her and a stab wound in her side. It appears one of these close-ups is a drawer of knives. The rat poison was easy to create, but these two are still a mystery. No idea what they could possibly be. Let's keep going. Here we have another hour in, and this appears to be a roll of some sort with indents in it. Not really sure. Maybe that was to help attract some rats for the rat poison. I will say the lines on the floor were very helpful in getting this section together. Same with a couple of those little insets, but this is a challenge because here another hour in, haven't made a whole lot of progress, a little bit more on the floor. We've got a countertop here with a dish on it, some sort of overturned dish on the other side of the sink. But most of this, again, with these dark pieces, makes it really tedious to put together, honestly. And here we have yet another hour in. It looks like this is some spilled Chinese food. We have the Chinese food takeout container there, and that would go along with that plate full of Chinese food. I know it's Chinese because it has some chopsticks there. But what else is that? I mean, are those buns? It looks like it is a bag of buns. Not really sure what that is all about. Another hour in, and you can see we're down to one tray of pieces left finally. We don't have a whole lot of new clues. We do have a broken plate on the floor, a little bit more definition of what's going on with the cabinet there and the things on the counter. I don't think there's a whole lot of clues left to find, but I think we will finish this puzzle in the next hour. And here we have our completed murder scene. Now we do have the corpse of Vivian over here. It looks like she has been stabbed. We do have a drawer here of knives. There is a broken plate on the floor. Looks like the hamburger bun is also here on the floor. And then we have a napkin with some blood on it. Rat poison in the cabinet. We have Chinese food here on the counter. Looks like it's been spilled out, but there is one plate that is full of, looks like some eaten food. Something happened up here in the, I don't know what this is, this little container of some sort, and something has spilled out over the counter. And I think that is most of what we're looking at. A broken plate here on the floor. It does look like there is no food on the floor. Actually, that might be a little bit of food right here. It's kind of hard to see in the picture. But, oh yeah, I guess there is. There's food. So she dropped her plate while she was eating. Looks like this person has also been eating here. Let's go ahead and look back in the book here because now we have some clues. So, close-up number 1. Does the boot print in the bun match anyone's shoes? So, well, we do know from the story that Frank was wearing boots and the husband was wearing dress shoes. So if there's a boot print in the bun, it is clearly from Frank, the handyman. Clue number 2. Look at the silverware drawer. Not seeing anything of interest? Try your ALS, alternative light source. All right, so I don't see anything offhand. Not really sure. There's a little bit of silverware perhaps off on the side. But I think now it's time to break out our little alternative light source. So I was afraid of this. After all of these years, this does not work. The battery, I'm sure you can open this battery compartment somehow, but it's probably all leaked inside and not working anyway. Fortunately, being the Halloween enthusiast that I am, I have lots of black lights. So let's turn this on and take a look inside the drawer. And it's kind of hard to see here, but there is a fingerprint here on one of the knives. So you can see it in the close-up as well as the regular portion of the image. Don't really see anything else. Pretty sure it's only the fingerprint. Close-up number 3. Is it possible there's more here than just spilled food? So we have the spilled almond chicken, and it looks like, I don't know if there is more here to see. I mean, this image is not super high quality, and then you have all of the puzzle pieces that break up the image. Makes it awfully hard to see. But is there something else that could be in there? I mean, we have rat poison. Is the rat poison spread upon the food? I mean, I can't tell. I don't see any sign of rat poison. It would just be, I guess, sprinkles of something. I mean, that could be it, or is that just glossy? So I don't know, but I'm guessing if she was poisoned, obviously it's part of the Chinese food. Close up 4. Awfully nice house for rat poison, don't you think? And not everyone keeps poison in a kitchen. Not suspicious exactly, but worth checking. So the rat poison, actually, it does specify that it's pellets. So do we see pellets here in the food? Would pellets be noticeable? I mean, we do have something that could be sesame seeds there. So I'm thinking that maybe those are rat poison pellets? I don't know. Now read the lab results available and tell Brass what you and Catherine have concluded. All right, so we've got the evidence tags here, one of which is the bloody towel. It was taken from the kitchen floor. We have the butcher knife. It was in the knife drawer in the kitchen. We have the hamburger bun with a boot print taken from the kitchen floor. Rat poison removed from the kitchen cupboard. And almond chicken taken from kitchen countertop. All right, so there we have our evidence. We have an incident report form here. Basically gives the general information of the crime and the involved people. We have Vivian Elliott, the victim, Monica Campbell, the caller, the neighbor that found the body. We have Tim Elliott, that's the husband, he's a suspect. Frank Dayton, he's also a suspect. And those are our 4 main characters. The incident occurred between noon and 4 p.m. And then we have the lab report. Let's read it. The toxicology report. Almond chicken from the countertop contained a lethal dose of prussic acid, same substance found in package of rat poison, evidence item number 1523, taken from the cupboard. Autopsy report. The victim received serious injuries from a stab wound to the upper right quadrant of the abdomen, including puncturing the inferior lobe of the right lung and perforation of the diaphragm. The weapon missed all major organs. Skin around the wound shows hesitation marks. The cause of death was cyanide poisoning. Contents of the victim's stomach, almond chicken, tested positive for lethal amounts of prussic acid, a cyanide derivative. DNA report. Blood from the towel, evidence item 1525, matches the DNA of suspect Frank Dayton. Blood from the knife, evidence item 1522, contained traces of blood from both the deceased and suspect Frank Dayton. Latent print report. The boot print from the hamburger bun, evidence item 1521, matches the boot of suspect Frank Dayton. Fingerprints from the knife handle, evidence item 1522, are a match for suspect Frank Dayton. All right, well, before we get to the solution, have you solved the crime? I don't know what's going on. So, we have Frank Dayton found with the blood on his hands, washing it off. It appears he held the knife. His DNA was also on the towel. Well, it does say she put up a fight. So who was she fighting? So her husband brought her the almond chicken. But the almond chicken had the rat poison in it for sure, because she was poisoned. Could the rat poison have been in the coffee? Is this a coffee canister? Is this coffee that spilled out? Maybe Monica was involved somehow. But if Frank had brought her the Chinese food for lunch, that would have been before Monica came. So it couldn't have been Monica. Who put the rat poison in the food? It would have had to have been the husband. Frank couldn't have put the rat poison in the food. And she died from the rat poison. I'm not sure why there is an open bag of hamburger buns. That makes no sense. It doesn't go with the Chinese food here. What does the bun have to do with anything? We had another plate of the Chinese food here. So it said he was eating the Chinese food. The husband ate with the wife. But it was poisoned. They'd finished eating. She was maybe cleaning up the dishes. Maybe Frank or the husband had left. She's putting the dishes away. Frank comes in. But why would he want to stab her if the cause of death was a poisoning? But there were also hesitation marks or indication of hesitation around the knife wound. So that wouldn't have killed her. Why would he want to stab her? Could this have been made to look like a robbery gone bad? So maybe he took the money? But why? She must have died before she was stabbed. What possible reason would someone want to stab her? I don't think it was robbery because she's still wearing a bracelet and I don't know, looks like maybe a wedding ring there. So they didn't steal her jewelry. It also said they weren't wealthy enough for live and help, so what reasoning could she have been killed? But again, it comes back to the poison. The husband had to have poisoned her. I think maybe this was just tipped over because everything is in disarray because of a fight that she had. So who would she have been fighting with? If the husband had left and she was poisoned and died from poisoning, why would everything be in disarray? Well, I'm never going to make a good detective. Let's read the solution. All right, so bringing my black light in, we do see the solution here. Wow, it's a little bit lengthy. I know it's going to be very difficult to see that in the camera. So let's let you look at the image and try to follow along, see if you can solve it while I read the solution. Brass comes back into the room. Slam dunk, Dayton did it, right? Yes, Catherine says. The detective grins. Yeah, it is nice to get an open and shut case now and then. And no. Frowning suddenly, he says, say what? Dayton likely tried to kill her. She was stabbed with a knife we found in the drawer over there, and his fingerprints match well, but he still didn't kill her. Brass says, my slam dunk just popped back out, didn't it? Yes, but you may be able to cry foul, and I think we can tell you who the real killer is. I think we need to talk to Frank Dayton again. Brass has Dayton brought in by the patrolman. This time, Catherine takes a stab at doing the interrogation, her voice firm but not unfriendly. Mr. Dayton, we've pretty much put the pieces together here, but I need your help filling in some of the circumstances. The handyman says nothing. We have a boot print from the kitchen, made during the struggle, which we've tentatively identified as matching your work boot. In the drawer, we found the knife, put away, only with fingerprints all over it. You stabbed her with it, didn't you? Dayton remains silent. Would it help if you knew you didn't kill her? The stone-faced man is suddenly flabbergasted. He begins to cry. I stabbed her. I loved her so much it hurt. So I had to kill her. You know, to make it stop. Surely you understand, don't you? Patiently, Catherine asks, what happened exactly? I don't know what happened. I just sort of went off. Now calm down, Catherine says. Start at the beginning. Finally gaining control over his tears, Dayton says, I started working for the Elliots about a year ago. Fixing things, gardening, you know. Whatever needed to be done. I saw how he treated her. He's a cruel, abusive loser, and she deserved so much better. She was beautiful, kind, sweet, and well, it wasn't long before nature kind of took its course. She and I got together. I asked her to run off with me. It'd be a simple life, but a good one, a loving one. Only, she wouldn't leave him. She still loved him. I was just her friend. But she'd been really friendly. So what happened today? We were together this morning. We'd, barely finished when that bum of a husband showed up with lunch for 3 of us. He knew I was working in the house today on some plumbing. Funny, he never comes home during the day. Usually never does a nice thing for her. You didn't eat with them? He shakes his head. Nah, I was too weirded out. How? How did you know? Just go on, please. Well, anyway, that louse damn near caught us together. I made up some excuse about having other work to do out back. He insisted I join them, but I left. I was completely freaked out. I told him to leave mine on the counter and I'd get to it later. It spilled during your struggle with Mrs. Elliot, didn't it? It was our first clue, the almond chicken. The handyman frowns. What about it? It smelled like bitter almond chicken. Dayton's confused look says he still doesn't know what she's talking about. What happened after lunch, Frank, she asks. Letting out a deep breath, Dayton says, I came in as soon as hubby left. I mean, the second the car pulled out of the driveway, I wanted to know if he suspected us. Vivian said he didn't, but the guilt was consuming her. She was going to tell him. We argued. I tried to tell her not to do that we could still be together, even if I had to settle for just being her good friend. And she said no? Yeah, but she got really irritable. She said she felt sick to her stomach. I tried to help her, but she just got angrier and angrier until she told me to get out, to pack up and get out. She never wanted to see me again. She said I was just the biggest mistake she'd ever made. Me. After that, I just lost it. The fight got physical. She kept having these pains in her gut, though, and finally, I think to scare me, she pulled a knife from the drawer. We fought over it, but as we struggled, I got control of it, and the next thing I knew, I'd stabbed her. So I don't know how you can say I didn't kill her. The other patrol officer brings Elliot in. You wanted to see him? You read him his rights? Catherine asks. Yes, ma'am. The 2 men stand glaring at each other. Mr. Dayton, judging by the position of the wound, you didn't kill Mrs. Elliot. Her husband did. Our lab analysis indicates that someone put rat poison in the almond chicken, figuring the food would cover up the burnt almond smell of cyanide. Dayton takes a step toward Elliot, even though both men have their hands handcuffed behind them. Brass steps between the 2. Elliot says, I wouldn't have killed that lying tramp if it hadn't been for this lowlife. She never cheated on me until he came along. I found out what they were doing, and I knew what I had to do. I ate only rice and egg rolls, and avoided the main course. I only wish this creep had a great big helping of that chicken. Turning to the handyman, Catherine says, Unfortunately for you, Mr. Dayton, your friend wasn't dead when you stabbed her. That makes it attempted murder. I think it's safe to say that both of you are looking at a lot of time to reflect on what you've done. Food for thought, gentlemen. And there we have it, the story of Vivian Elliott's death at the hands of her lover and her husband. I guess I should have caught the cyanide. That was actually kind of clever. The burnt almond smell with the almond chicken. It goes with the rat poison, although I think if they had put cyanide on the label, maybe it is, it's really hard to read, that would have been a much better clue. The hamburger buns really threw me. I mean, it makes no sense. The plate here, I guess, was a plate saved for Frank, and again, it's hard to tell. It looks like it could have been partially eaten, but I think that was a poor clue. If it was supposed to be a full plate, I think it should have been a little bit more obvious. Maybe the chopsticks should not have been opened like they are, because that obviously makes it look like it had been eaten a bit. So the knife in the drawer with the fingerprint on it, I mean, all of these clues kind of were spelled out in the last toxicology report and didn't give you a whole lot to really ponder and think about. But the mystery is solved, the criminals are going to jail, and this case is wrapped up. Let me know in the comments, what did you think? Before we go, I did want to say a special thank you to all the patrons who help support the channel. If you're interested in joining my Fright Club, be sure to check out a link to my Patreon page in the description below. Now the fun's not over yet. We do still have CSI, the case of the unbalanced death. Business is really bad for the owner of Bradley Wickets. The business owner, Stuart Bradley, is found dead. Slumped over his desk, your CSI team is called to solve the crime. The clues are all there, but some are easier to find than others. Help Grissom answer the questions. Did Stuart Bradley take his own life, or did someone do it for him? Stay tuned for this and more. Till next time, take care, and happy puzzling.